My name is Eugene Harrison. I'm a 35-year-old office worker. I work in IT, but I'm essentially a gopher. I was hired by this company about 6 months ago. It's a company mainly engaged in system development, and I take on various chores, such as making copies, to help other employees carry out their work smoothly. You could say my days are busy and fulfilling. However, since my early days at the company, I've been branded as an engineer who isn't much use. Thanks to this, there's no one in my department who has the time to chat with me outside of work. I've gotten used to eating my lunch alone on the rooftop during my break. Then, a change came to my daily life. In April, there was a personnel change, and the boss who had been overseeing the department was transferred. The new boss, it seemed, wasn't an engineer. Apparently, she was chosen to oversee the department because of her high ability to manage employees. I remember the boss who was transferred murmuring about how our engineers often work overtime and how the overtime pay has become a problem. It's probably a personnel change to thoroughly address that issue. The new boss is a stunning beauty, and the men in the department were all abuzz when she made her inaugural address. I'd heard the rumors that she was beautiful, but she was even more gorgeous than the rumors suggested. I was smitten at first sight. Her name is Jennifer Parker. She's 5 years younger than me. She looks mature and competent. Not at all what you'd expect from someone younger than you. Like the other male employees, I quickly became a fan of Jennifer. However, she was not particularly kind to me. She saw me as an employee who can't do his job. I quickly realized that. She's been closely observing the behavior of the employees in order to understand the state of the department. About a week later, she began to distribute tasks among the employees. It was astonishingly perfect. After a month, both overtime and errors dropped significantly. Even right before the project deadline, the employees' morale was high. The employees' frustrations dramatically reduced after Jennifer was transferred. I was really grateful, as it felt like I was the one who had to bear the brunt of the frustrations at work every day. Jennifer's arrival coincided with the project deadline, so the welcoming party was postponed, and it was only held about a month and a half later. By that time, Jennifer had already integrated herself into the department, and the drinking party was casual and lively, like a no-holds-barred kind of atmosphere. Since it was right after the project deadline, everyone's spirits were high. I've never really been a fan of alcohol, and I don't drink at social gatherings. I'd sit there drinking my soft drink, watching everyone get progressively drunker. Not many people struck up a conversation with me at the gathering. The new recruits like Sally and her group would talk to me, but I reckon that'll change by the time winter rolls around. Just as I was engaging in travel discussions with the younger ones, Jennifer joined the conversation. She appeared to have been coerced into drinking quite a bit, and she was thoroughly inebriated, to put it mildly. Her eyes were half closed, a far cry from her usually sharp and focused demeanor. "You've had too much to drink, Jennifer," I pointed out, steadying her as she struggled to sit upright. The new recruits looked worried too. "I'm not drunk. You're all just making fun of me." She giggled while denying it. This wasn't good. She was clearly intoxicated. "Stop talking only to the younger ones, Eugene. Talk to me too, or don't you want to mingle with a younger female boss?" she said, leaning in closer to me, clearly fueled by the alcohol. I wanted to create some distance, but I had the feeling that if I did, she might tumble out of her chair. The new recruits, likely scared of being caught up in this situation with the boss, made a hasty retreat, leaving Ms. Jennifer and me alone at a corner table. "Come on, Jennifer, sit straight," I said, trying to push her upright by the shoulder, but she was swaying and struggling to find her balance. "Can't you lend me your shoulder, huh? It's not like it's going to decrease." She slurred, hardly forming her words properly. Acting like a child, She was swinging her legs, and one of her high heels went flying under the table. Jennifer was surprised to find his shoes missing and stuck her face under the desk. The next moment, she started laughing uproariously. "You always put on such a serious face, Eugene, but I can tell you're really good at your job. You think you've got me fooled, but you're just underestimating me," she said, puffing out her cheeks. This caught me off guard. As far as I knew, only the CEO was aware of my background, and it seemed unlikely that Jennifer would have been informed. Did she notice something from the way I usually act? "You're underestimating me," she yelled, playfully punching me with a weak cat punch. "I have two things I don't like: alcohol and drunks." This was getting out of hand. "Could someone give me a hand with Jennifer, please?" I called out to the bustling tables around us, and a colleague came over to help the drunk Jennifer. Even as she was being led away, she didn't let go of my arm. Jennifer's colleague, Jane, who joined the company at the same time as her, informed me that she had asked Jennifer's sister to pick her up. A taxi was on its way. Despite her low alcohol tolerance, she loves her booze, Jane chuckled, sharing some inside information. By this point, Jennifer had started dozing off, still clinging to my arm. "You've become her favorite," Jane laughed as she observed this. Jennifer's pickup arrived about 15 minutes later. "I apologize for the trouble my sister has caused," a woman who looked strikingly like Jennifer said when she arrived. But her vibe was completely different. She clearly didn't seem like a corporate worker. "Excuse me, I'm Kate, Jennifer's sister. I'm sorry for any trouble she's caused." Her sister deeply apologized to me, making me feel somewhat embarrassed. She had a cab waiting outside the bar, so I helped Jennifer to the cab. During this time, I noticed that Kate kept glancing at me. Is there something on my face?" I asked while checking my face with my hand. Kate shook her head and said, "No. Are you a systems engineer?" I was asked by Kate, and I explained my job to her. I admitted that I was a systems engineer, but mostly worked on various tasks. At this, Kate tilted her head curiously. Her gesture seemed youthful, and I found it adorable. At the same time, something in my memory was nagging at me. I recalled feeling the same uneasy sensation when I first met Jennifer. The inexplicable unease continued even after they got in the cab and left. The next day, as soon as I got to work, Jennifer grabbed my arm and said, "I'm really sorry. I heard I was really bothering you yesterday." She kept apologizing, making me feel bad. "Well, it's not a big deal, you were drunk." I tried to brush it off as a joke. Apparently, she had been scolded by Kate when they got home and was told to apologize to me. "I'm really sorry," she said with a deeply remorseful face. "Don't worry about it. It was just a company drinking party. I didn't mind at all." On hearing this, Jennifer seemed relieved and smiled. Her smile made my heart flutter in a different way from the night before. But I decided to keep this feeling to myself. About a month and a half had passed since the drinking party. I was still busy doing odds and ends, but I felt fulfilled. During lunch break, as usual, I headed to the rooftop. There was a small chapel on the rooftop of our building. I always have my lunch there, offering a prayer daily. Usually, my favorite spot is empty, but today there was already someone there. It was a new employee, Sally. She was highly regarded in our department for being a quick learner among the new hires. She was crying with a trembling voice. I thought about ignoring it and leaving, but reconsidered. I called out to her, trying not to startle her. She seemed to think no one would come, so she was startled and stood up. Seeing me standing there, she seemed to lose all energy and sat back down. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" I sat down beside her and asked. Tears began to overflow from her large eyes. In a panic, I looked for a handkerchief but couldn't find one. I handed her a packet of tissues I got from the subway station on my commute. I might not be much help, but would you like to talk to me about it? I encouraged her. She sniffled and began to share. Apparently, she had made a mistake at work. She couldn't correct a bug. She was in charge of the security system, currently assisting in the rebuilding of a system for a major client. She was supposed to handle the security part. I checked the date. At this rate, she wouldn't make the deadline. She started crying, raising her voice. Have you talked to any senior staff? The project is handled by a team, not an individual. I had a feeling they were piling work on her, a new hire. At my question, she nodded lightly. She had asked for help, but apparently, everyone else was too busy with their own work, with the deadline approaching. They must be jealous of her skills and refusing to help. Otherwise, they wouldn't leave something so crucial to just her. I fought for a while, then decided to help her. But I had one condition, which I told her. I wanted her to keep it a secret that I helped. She seemed surprised but probably had no choice. She said, please. That afternoon, I scrubbed the program in between my chores. The bug was found surprisingly easily. There were other pots I wanted to fix too, so I hurried to correct them. The system program she created was fixed before the end of the day. I secretly handed it back to her. She exclaimed, "What? Already? Shh, keep it a secret." I put my finger to my lips and said. She nodded understandingly. Everyone was desperate with the deadline approaching. I thought no one would notice. But there was someone in this department who had been observing me. It was Jennifer. The next morning, right after the morning meeting, I was called by Jennifer. "You fixed this program, didn't you, Eugene? It's impossible to find and correct a bug and rebuild it in such a short time. What's going on?" I was at a loss for words. I had underestimated Jennifer. It was my mistake to overestimate that I could deceive her, who monitored and oversaw everything. Well, I couldn't find the next words to say. Jennifer stood up as if irritated by me. "I looked into your background because I was curious, even the erased pots. Why are you just a general affairs officer when you're better than anyone else in this department? Are you making a fool of me?" Jennifer couldn't hide her anger and raised her voice at me. I wondered why she was so angry. Whether I work or not, whether I have the ability or not, it's up to me how I use my power. To be blunt, this isn't a matter worth upsetting Jennifer over. I was torn between telling her the truth and just quitting my job. That being said, it did get under my skin a bit when Jennifer got irrationally angry without understanding the situation. The moment I opened my mouth to retort, the department door was flung open roughly. Heavy footsteps approached us. "Who made this security program?" The one raising her voice was Kate. Sally mumbled, "It was me." At this, Kate stormed towards her. She shrank back in fear, tears welling up in her eyes again. She was expecting to be scolded for some mistake. The fear of being unable to explain herself was palpable. Panicked, I stepped forward. It was me. I did it," and raised my hand, identifying myself to Kate. She halted and turned around to face me. Then she grinned. "I thought so." "Why, Kate?" I asked Jennifer. "Kate is a white hat hacker hired by this company. It's her job to find vulnerabilities by breaking the security we build. My program was handed over to Kate last night. Apparently, she's been making a fuss since seeing it." Kate, standing before me, looked at me intently. "It's been a while, Eugene. Don't you remember me?" She grabbed her long hair in one hand and tied it up into a ponytail. I didn't recognize that look. Wait, why? My memories rushed back to high school. That was during an ID exchange program over summer vacation. It was a government-planned program to teach system programming to students in the UK. I remember being among those handpicked from various places. We didn't interact much due to the age gap, but she, as an elementary schooler, would often engage me in conversation. That was Kate. Her hacking skills overshadowed those of the college and high school students that were with us, and I remember being astounded. There was a talent in her that couldn't be reached through hard work alone. In the end, I decided to stay and study in the UK during the exchange program. I haven't seen her since. Do you work as a handyman here? Don't be ridiculous. I know that you have more talent than anyone else here. Why are you holding back? She was angry because the program was too perfect. How I use my talent is my business, isn't it? Even though she doesn't know a thing, she imposes her opinions, and I can't hide my irritation anymore. In the midst of our glaring, Jennifer steps in between us. And in the next moment, she slapped my cheek with a resounding smack. For a moment, I couldn't comprehend what had happened to me. When I realized it wasn't Kate who slapped me, but Jennifer, I was truly shocked. Why don't you utilize your talents? Why? I longed for that talent so much I could choke. While receiving the same gift as Kate, why? Jennifer scolded me with a serious look, and my irritation subsided in an instant. Tears welled up in her eyes. No matter how much I try, I can't beat Kate. Dad's favorite isn't me, it's Kate. Why? Because I don't have a gift, even though we are twins. What's different between me and Kate? At Jennifer's words, Kate hung her head. It's not Kate's fault, and it's not Jennifer's fault either. It's nothing but a cruel joke by God. Jennifer then dashed out into the hallway. Go after her. Take responsibility, Kate said, still looking down. Twins are strange. They always want the same things. I have the best gift. So Eugene, you can give yours to Jennifer. I couldn't see Kate's face as she was still looking down. But then, I remembered. The last day of that summer vacation. Kate wrapped a small piece of wire around my ring finger and said, "Please remember to find me. When we grow up, I'll become your wife." I thought it was a joke from a grade schooler and soon forgot about the promise. I'm sorry, I have to go. Leaving those words behind, I went after Jennifer. I saw her turning the corner of the hallway and climbing the stairs to the rooftop. Wait, Jennifer. Even though I called out to her, Jennifer didn't stop. There was a loud bang, and the rooftop door opened. When I got to the rooftop, Jennifer was hunched over, hugging her knees, beside the small chapel. She was burying her face in her knees. I quietly sat next to her. I'm sorry, I said some horrible things. I apologized to Jennifer for my arrogant words. My apology itself might have been taken as arrogant. Even so, I wanted to apologize. Jennifer shook her head slightly at my apology. It's not something you should apologize for, Eugene. I'm sorry for speaking without knowing anything. As she said this, she raised her head. Her eyes were red. I just want you to listen to my story for a little while. I started talking with that preface. Since returning from the UK, I was working hard as a systems engineer at a company my friend started. Everything was going well. But the friend who became successful seemed to see me as a hindrance. He spread rumors that I had stolen the system someone else created and tarnished my credibility in the industry. Moreover, he claimed all of my accomplishments as his own at industry parties. I lost everything. I didn't want to trust anyone anymore, and I didn't want to use my talents for work. The one who picked me up when I was down was the CEO of this company. We had worked together before. He hired me, saying it's okay to take it easy. This was a story I had never told anyone. Jennifer listened to my story with a serious expression. After speaking out, I felt a strange sensation, as if a weight had been lifted from my chest. I tried hard, but I was never good enough. I don't have the talent or the sense like Kate. That's why I worked hard to acquire other talents. To be successful as a career woman. That's what Jennifer vowed to herself. But every now and then, she said it hurt to see Kate. She explained that she was angry at me for holding back my talents even though I had them. If I think about it, I was just taking out my frustrations on you, Eugene. I'm sorry. Her sideways glance still looked somewhat childlike. The gap between this and her professional demeanor at work was charming. It may sound arrogant, but I want to use my talent for you from now on. It was the confession of a lifetime. Upon hearing my words, Jennifer opened her eyes wide in surprise. Her expression reminded me of a surprise cat, and it was extremely cute. I've been constantly charmed by her different sides. Are there any lies in what you just said? She asked while peering into my eyes. Of course not. In sickness and in health. My words were cut off by Jennifer's hands. Her face was bright red. Looking away, she said curtly, "Isn't that a bit too soon? That's how serious I am." I stood up. I extended my hand to Jennifer, who was looking up at me, and without any hesitation, she took my hand. The woman who stood up was no longer a young girl. She had returned to her professional, working woman's demeanor. "Then, start working hard from today. Don't hold back your skills." "Sure," I said to her with a smile. She squinted her eyes slightly, as if looking at something dazzling. Using my talents for her. I wondered if there could be any greater happiness. Years later, she was laughing next to me in a wedding dress. Many people asked me if it was hard to have her as a boss, but it was not hard at all. I was proud to be able to help her every day. "I promise to make you happy. I want you to smile and be in a good mood every day." At my words, Jennifer quietly nodded. "I'm ready to walk through life together with her from now on,"